When most people hear Top Gun and think about Tom Cruise, fighter jets flying upside down, and that epic beach volleyball scene. But the truth is, the real Top Gun school is one of the most important parts of modern air combat. It helped turn American pilots from struggling in battle to dominating the skies. We're gonna walk through the whole story, where it started, why it had to be made, and how it made such a huge difference in training. So sit back, because this is gonna be a deep dive, and we're gonna keep it simple, clear, and real. The problem that started it all. Let's go back to the 1960s. Vietnam War. American fighter pilots were flying missions against enemy aircraft, and they were getting killed more often than expected. Now, this wasn't because our planes weren't fast or powerful. The US had jets like the F-4 Phantom, which were fast and packed with missiles. But something wasn't working. For every enemy plane shot down, we were losing too many of our own. It wasn't a good look. Pilots were struggling in dogfights, getting outmaneuvered, and losing battles. Turns out, pilots didn't have much training in actual dogfighting. They were taught to fire missiles from far away. They weren't practicing close-up fights, the kind where jets are turning tight, doing loops, trying to get behind the other guy. That stuff just wasn't being taught seriously anymore. So yeah, we had fast jets and high-tech missiles, but no good training for real close-range fights. That's a problem. The Navy figures it out. So in 1968, the Navy said, enough is enough. They called in a group to look at the air combat problem. This group was from the US Navy Fighter Weapons School, but they were still new and small at the time. They were just starting out. These guys looked at the data. They studied every air-to-air kill, every loss, and every pilot report from the war. What they found was clear. Pilots needed better training, not just flying hours, but real, aggressive, realistic training. They needed to learn how to fight, not just fly. So in 1969, the Navy officially set up the real Top Gun school, the US Navy Fighter Weapons School, at Naval Air Station Miramar in California. This was the birth of what we now call Top Gun. What Top Gun did differently. Right off the bat, Top Gun changed everything about pilot training. Here's how. 1. Realistic combat training. Instead of simple flying drills, pilots were put into mock battles against experienced instructors. These instructors flew aggressor jets, pretending to be enemy pilots. They flew like the enemy would, using their tactics. 2. Dogfighting practice. Pilots weren't just firing missiles from miles away anymore. They were flying close, turning hard, and learning how to outmaneuver opponents. 3. Debriefing and feedback. After every training flight, the pilots would sit down with instructors and go over everything. What they did right, what they did wrong, and how to improve. 4. No sugarcoating. Top Gun was known for being tough. Instructors didn't baby anyone. If a pilot messed up, they were told straight. This helped them learn fast and not make the same mistake again. 5. Enemy tactics and weak spots. Pilots were taught not just how to fly their own jets, but how enemy jets flew too. They learned their strengths and weaknesses. That way, they could use it against them in combat. This was all new back then. No other training program did it like this. Part 4. The results were huge. Once Top Gun started, the results showed up fast. Before the school, the Navy's kill ratio, that's how many enemies you shoot down for every one of your own planes lost, was about 2 to 1. After Top Gun, it jumped to 12 to 1. That's a massive improvement. Pilots were surviving longer, winning more fights, and coming home. That's the whole goal. Part 5. The culture of excellence. Top Gun wasn't just a training program, it became something bigger than that. It was a whole new way of thinking. Before Top Gun, pilots mostly did what they were told. They followed set routines, ran through checklists, and got a certain number of flying hours. But once Top Gun started, that old way of doing things changed. Pilots began to see the job differently. It wasn't just about flying, it was about mastering the fight. They started pushing themselves harder than ever before. They weren't just going up to fly in circles, they were getting into real dogfights during training, going head-to-head with other skilled pilots. Every move mattered, every second counted, and they studied it all, over and over. After each flight, they'd sit down, watch the tapes, talk through what went wrong, what went right, and how to do better next time. This wasn't casual stuff. These guys were serious. They started treating every training flight like it could be life or death, because in war, that's exactly what it would be. They learned to think fast, to stay calm under pressure, and to never take anything for granted. And the attitude changed too. Pilots who went through Top Gun didn't just walk away with skills, they walked away with pride. They held themselves to a higher standard. They knew they were part of something special. They talked different, acted different, and flew with more confidence. Not in an arrogant way, but in a way that showed they knew what they were doing, and they were ready for whatever came next. Other pilots started noticing too. Word got around fast. If you trained at Top Gun, people respected you. It meant you were the best of the best. Not because someone said so, but because you proved it. Up there in the sky, pulling Gs, dodging missiles, and flying on the edge. Top Gun wasn't just about flying better. It was about thinking better, training smarter, and carrying yourself like a real pro. It created a whole culture, one that's still alive today. It became known that if you went through Top Gun, you were one of the best, not just because of your skills, but because you could handle the pressure, the feedback, and the drive to get better. Top Gun pilots went back to their squadrons and passed on what they learned. They trained others, so the impact didn't stop with just a few people. It spread across the whole Navy. Part 6. Air Force follows with red flag. The Air Force saw what Top Gun was doing and realized they needed something similar. So they created Red Flag, a training exercise where pilots would fly realistic missions, face tough challenges, and learn to survive their first battle before it happened for real. Red Flag was about full mission planning, big force fights, and working together. It wasn't the same as Top Gun, but it had the same goal: better, smarter, tougher pilots. Part 7. Top Gun and the movies. Then in 1986, the Top Gun movie dropped. Boom! Everyone wanted to be a fighter pilot. Recruitment shot up. The movie showed a dramatized version of the real school, but it brought a lot of attention to it. Pilots who had never heard of it were suddenly interested. People respected the skill, the danger, and the level of training these pilots went through. The movie didn't show all the details right, but it got the spirit of it, and it helped raise awareness about how serious and intense fighter pilot training really was. Part 8. Top Gun evolves. Over time, Top Gun changed. The school moved from Miramar to Fallon, Nevada. It became part of a bigger training setup called the Naval Aviation Warfighting Development Center. But the mission stayed the same: make the best fighter pilots in the world. They added new lessons, more advanced jets, simulators, real-world scenarios. Now they don't just train in dogfighting, they train in everything: teamwork, long-range fights, missile threats, ground targets, and even space and cyber stuff. Part 9. Modern Top Gun training. Today, Top Gun is more important than ever. With new threats, stealth fighters, and tech everywhere, pilots need to be sharp. They train for air battles that could happen in seconds. They work with drones. They train for missions that take place over oceans, deserts, and even close to enemy territory. But at its heart, Top Gun still focuses on the basics: knowing your jet, knowing the enemy, staying cool under pressure, working with your wingmen, never stopping the learning. That's what keeps pilots alive. That's what wins battles. Final thoughts. Top Gun changed everything. Before it came along, fighter pilot training was pretty basic. Pilots mostly learned the rules, flew in straight lines, and didn't get much practice fighting real enemies in the air. But after Top Gun was created, that all changed. Pilots started training in real dogfights against other skilled pilots. They got better at thinking fast, reacting under pressure, and working as a team. It made them smarter, sharper, and way more prepared for real combat. It's not just a cool name, it's a mindset, a culture, and also a mission. Thanks to Top Gun, the skies are just a little safer for those who fly them. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this.